Now I watch guys I played with and against play in the NFL, have successful careers in the NFL. And there's film evidence that shows like I can not only compete with these guys, but I can outperform them. That's hard to watch. That's hard to see. And it used to absolutely destroy me.
Yeah, straight A student, but I'm friends with the cool kids. Following the rules and the rubric. Freestyle on the bus.
What's up, everybody? My name is Dr. Zach Guiser, and this is another entry into the Athlete Development Journal, where we take complex athletic problems and provide simple solutions. Got my coffee bright and early this morning. Let's get it. All right, we're going to keep the same 4 sections we had last week, but we're going to switch up the order a little bit. We're going to get to the meat and potatoes right away. We're going to start with our mental deep dive, then we're going to move into our training deep dive, then we'll get onto what's going on at GT, and then we'll finish out with what's going on with my life as a sports parent. On Father's Day, I caught Evie, who's my almost 2-year-old daughter, trying to reach up on the counter and grab the present that I got from my mother-in-law and father-in-law on Father's Day, which was a glass bottle of whiskey. Okay, so I don't drink very often, but when I do, I enjoy the occasional glass of Red Stag. So very thoughtful present. Really enjoyed getting that, but not the best thing for an almost 2-year-old to get her hands on. Okay, so everything about that bottle is bad for her. It's way too heavy for her, and if she were to somehow actually reach it on the counter and pull it off, the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to drop and shatter. It's made of glass, and so it's probably going to cut her. There's going to be glass pieces all over the place. It's going to be dangerous. And if by some miracle she actually was able to safely pull that bottle down and she could wave her magic wand and open that bottle up, it's filled with literal poison. Okay, nothing about that bottle is good for her. And I don't know what in her little 2-year-old brain decided that she wanted that bottle, but man, did she want that bottle. And she lost her mind when I wouldn't let her have it. It was completely unfair. She couldn't fathom why I wouldn't let her have that bottle. And that got me thinking, how often are we in that situation? Are we the one chasing after that bottle, but we have no idea? We can see the mistakes in other people. So maybe it's your 12-year-old daughter who's got this softball tournament coming up, but she's coming back from a back injury and she's not supposed to come back for another 3 weeks, but she wants to come back early because her back's been feeling better and she really wants to play in this tournament. And it's just completely unfair that you won't let her play in it because she's feeling fine and there's nothing wrong that's going to happen. Even though you know if she plays in that tournament, there's a chance that she makes her back even worse and is going to be out even longer in the long run. Or maybe it's your 16-year-old son who you gave an 11 p.m. curfew to, and he's fighting with you because he's mature. Yeah, some of his friends aren't mature, but he's mature. He's going to make good decisions. He won't get in any trouble. There's nothing bad's going to happen because, did you raise a good kid? But darn well, nothing good happens past that hour. They just don't have the context, the experience, or the knowledge to see the full picture and make those good decisions. We, however, always end up thinking ourselves immune to this, that we've somehow arrived. Yeah, I made a couple of bad decisions a couple of years ago, but I've fully evolved now and I can see the light. So if there's something that I want, if there's something that I'm chasing after and I don't get it, I have a right to be upset because I know how that all would have played out because I see the full picture. I see the light. I've fully evolved. I don't know, man. That sounds a bit naive to me. To me, it sounds entirely plausible that there's some higher force that sees things that we could never see, that understands things that we could never understand. And maybe not getting the thing that we want is some sort of intervention. Maybe it's the equivalent of me reaching out and stopping her from grabbing that bottle. Now, let me give you an example from my personal life and my personal experience, okay? Some of you know that I played football at a high level. I played Division I football. I started there for 3 years. I was having a great senior season when everything got stripped away from me. And it used to really bother me that I never got a chance to compete for an NFL spot. Was I locked to make the NFL? Absolutely not. But was I going to be given an opportunity to compete? Yeah, most likely. The way my senior season was playing out, the way my career played out, I was probably going to be invited to a mini camp. Who knows what would have happened from there? But I never had the opportunity to even see if I would have gotten that mini camp invite. And I always felt wronged. I always felt shortchanged because of that. Now I watch guys I played with and against play in the NFL, have successful careers in the NFL. And there's film evidence that shows like I can not only compete with these guys, but I can outperform them. That's hard to watch. That's hard to see. And it used to absolutely destroy me. But if I were to reflect, having some years have passed now, I think that might have been some divine intervention. I think that the NFL might have been my glass bottle of whiskey. I was in a terrible mental spot my senior year of college. I hate traveling, and NFL players are on planes traveling all over the world all the time. I have very simple desires, so I don't need to make a ton of money. I hate talking to strangers. I am such an introvert, and being an NFL player comes with a lot of celebrity where you got to go meet a lot of people, and you have a certain appearance that you have to keep up. And I become obsessed with the criticism of others. I crumble under the pressure of the criticism of others. It's something I work through, but what people say about me really matters. And if you ever open up Twitter, people are unkind to an NFL defensive back if they make the slightest mistake. And that's putting it gently. I don't know, man. The NFL realistically might have killed me. So I know it's hard to hear, it's hard to comprehend in the moment, but if something's not going your way, if you didn't get that thing that you think you needed so bad, there might be a reason for it in the long run. Today, we're going to address something that I keep getting questions about, something that I see all over social media. We're going to talk about peptides. Specifically, we're going to talk about the Wolverine peptide, as people are calling it, or BPC 157. Okay. Before we dive deep into everything you need to know about BPC 157, I want to give some background physiology on what a peptide is and kind of what the precursors here are. So most people are familiar with protein. Protein make up basically the entire physical infrastructure and operating software of our body. Proteins are incredibly important. You take out all the water, we're basically just a bunch of protein. Now, that's not entirely true, but there's a ton of protein that makes up our body. Muscle is the big one that everybody thinks about when they think about protein, but all of our connective tissue, so of our tendons, ligaments, bones, cartilage, skin, etc., the structure of each cell, all the enzymes, all the hormones, hemoglobin, the immune system, etc. There's a ton of stuff that protein makes up. Okay? Proteins are made up of base component parts called amino acids. There are 20 unique amino acids that combine in different orders, different patterns, different shapes to have different effects. Of important note here, and I want to make sure you remember this, when you eat protein, your body doesn't absorb the protein as is. Digestion breaks it down into its individual amino acid components, then absorbs it individually to rebuild it in whatever order or pattern it thinks it needs to use those amino acids in. So just because you eat a protein in one structure doesn't mean you're going to have that structure floating around in your bloodstream. It's going to break it down into the individual amino acids and then ship them off separately. How does a peptide fit into this? Okay. A peptide is essentially a smaller protein. So a peptide is a small chain of amino acids up to about 50 amino acids. Peptides aren't really building blocks like proteins are. Peptides are essentially messengers. So you can think of them as being the thing that's sent to give a signal and cause something else to happen. For example, the biggest peptide class in the world right now that everybody's talking about all of the time are GLP-1s. You probably heard of Ozempic and its sibling drugs. Those are what GLP-1s are. So GLP-1s are peptides that are used to signal for the pancreas to release insulin, the hypothalamus to decrease appetite, and the stomach to delay gastric emptying. And there have been an abundance of clinical trials that have shown this to not only be theoretically possible, but clinically effective. And as far as we know, with all of the evidence at this point in time, safe. And so GLP-1s are a mass market drug. They've really changed the landscape of a lot of things. They've changed the landscape of health, fitness, and wellness in America for whatever good or bad you want to apply to that. That's not here what we're discussing. That's not what we're here to discuss today. What we're here to talk about is BPC 157. Okay. So BPC 157 is something that you'll see posted a lot about as, like I said, the Wolverine drug. It's used for healing. So if you have an injury, some people online will tell you to take BPC 157 because it helps you heal faster. That's what they say. So we're going to dive deep into what actually does the literature say right now. What's everything you need to know about BPC 157? What's the science say at this point in time? Okay. BPC-157 is a 15 amino acid chain peptide that was originally isolated from human gastric juice. It's theorized to work by increasing angiogenesis. So angiogenesis is blood vessel growth. So it promotes more blood flow to come to an area. The more blood flow that an area has, the more those tissues can grow because the more nutrients they're getting. The most recent systematic review regarding orthopedics, so anything involving musculoskeletal system, so basically all of the injuries that we would ever talk about in here outside of the nervous system ones, found 36 total studies, 35 of which were preclinical, which means they didn't involve human trials, they involved rats or something of the like. So that means on orthopedics, we've only got one clinical trial that involves humans. That clinical trial was relatively unconvincing. It looked at people with knee pain and found that it did help, but it wasn't a very robust study. I think there were 16 participants. Nothing we can draw any conclusions from in any way, shape, or form. As of right now, in totality, there are only 3 trials involving human participants, including the one orthopedic one we just discussed. Only one study has been done that looks at a safety profile at all. We have a total of 30 participants combined amongst all 3 trials that have ever been exposed to BPC-157 and looked at results. These aren't randomized controlled trials. These aren't high quality trials. These are just clinical trials in general. So we've only got a total of 30 participants. In that one safety profile, that one safety study, the study people are using to justify its safety, get this, has a whopping 2 participants, 2 healthy adults. And I believe, but don't quote me on this one, but I believe they were only examined for 24 hours. And people are using that to justify its safety. Right now, BPC-157 is not FDA approved, so it's probably, if you're getting it, it's probably manufactured in some janky compound pharmacy that, who knows what else is in it right now. If you are taking the BPC-157 pill, I want you to go back to what we talked about earlier. If you are absorbing a protein or a peptide through your digestive system, it is breaking it down into its individual amino acid components and then absorbing them. So you are not even getting BPC-157 into your bloodstream. You are just getting separate amino acids if you're taking a pill, which I know some people are. It's something that you would have to inject if you were to use it. So what do we take from all of this? What do we think makes sense out of all of this? The preclinical trials in the rats probably do show that, hey, it probably does increase tissue repair and increase tissue growth. But one, we don't have any human evidence to really confirm that right now. But even more importantly, if we take a step back, okay, could it help with healing tissue and growth? Yes, absolutely. But could it also help fast track an undetected tumor? Yes. If we have something that's just going to rapidly increase the rate of growth and repair, we can't say that if you have an undetected tumor, so if you are somebody who has underlying cancer diagnosis that you aren't aware of, and maybe it never actually turns into something that's clinical, you never find it, except for the fact that you inject yourself with BPC-157 and then you have a bunch of tumor growth and it turns into maybe something malignant because of how rapidly it's growing. I don't know. We don't know. It is plausible, though, that increased angiogenesis is not going to just apply to the injured area that you're looking at, but it's going to have more systemic effects, or you're going to have some significant sinister side effects alongside with it. We just don't know at this point in time. Is there a world that exists in the future where we have the clinical evidence that shows that BPC-157 is both safe and effective? That is a world that can exist. I am not closing that world off right now. But if you are considering giving BPC-157 to your adolescent athlete, I need you to really look at those pros and cons there. The pros, maybe possibly you have a little bit faster healing. The cons, you accelerate tumor growth, maybe. Like it's just such a skewed risk profile. We have so little information right now that it is completely unjustifiable for somebody who is an adolescent to take that risk, not being able to actually weigh all those consequences themselves. All right, we're gonna step off my soapbox there a little bit, and we're gonna talk about what's going on at GT. Some from the past week. We got Ian DeSerb, who is an athletic freak. He had a 10-foot 3-inch broad jump, so he's jumping out the gym. Really good to see because we've worked through a lot of stuff with him. He's one of those athletes. Whenever you get to a higher level, you're absolutely a physical phenom. Like he touches 11.7 and a half. He's fast. He's got a very high standing vertical jump. It's a little bit harder to make progress at that point in time. You have to be a little bit more strategic. You have to do things in a more specific way. It's not as easy as whenever you're an untrained individual. You start lifting some weights. That general strength development is the rising tide that lifts all ships. We've had to be a little bit more strategic, change some things around, and seeing the numbers really start to pop now has been exciting. Nate Prince has been another man on a mission recently, man. I got to give a shout out to Nate Prince. He hit his bench press goal of 135 pounds for a 3-rep max. He hit it 10.1 and a half on his 1-foot approach vert. He hit a 7-foot 9-inch broad jump. He hit a 10-yard dash of 1.72 seconds. The boy's getting strong. He's here 3 times a week, working his tail off. He looks a lot more muscular. He's playing well. He's performing well. Nate Prince, keep it up. Carson Cole is someone who's just really getting better and better and better continuously. So this is kind of an insane stat here. Last year at this time, he was running a 2.13 second 110 fly. So 110 flies are main acceleration test here. It means that you have a 1-yard buildup before you do a 10-yard sprint. The first laser is placed 1 yard away from the start line. The last laser is placed 11 yards away from the start line. It's our main acceleration test. We can run it a ton at the facility. The kids can run it by themselves within their program. We set the lasers up, and that's our main acceleration test. This time last year, he was running a 2.13 second 110 fly, and he just hit one at 1.82 seconds. So that's a 0.3 difference in only a 10-yard window. So let's put that in perspective. If you're running a 40-yard dash, and you go from a 4.7 to a 4.4, that's a huge difference. Most people listening to this right now can intuit that. They see, wow, that's a big difference. But that's 0.3 spread out over a 40-yard period. Carson improved 0.3 in a 10-yard period. To make it a 40 equivalent, you kind of have to extrapolate out and multiply that 0.3 by 4, which would be like going from a 6.0 second 40-yard dash to a 4.8 second 40-yard dash. He dropped the equivalent of 1.2 seconds in a 40-yard dash during that 10-yard acceleration. So that young man is working his tail off. He's getting fast. He's getting more athletic. He's a good kid to be around. Carson Cole, let's go. Our youth kids, man, our youth kids have been absolutely killing it recently. They've been working their tails off. They've been having fun. They've been learning a bunch of different movement patterns. They're getting exposed to the weight room. They're doing all their jumps, their spins, their crawls, all of the general athletic development stuff that we need. And we're running into an issue where they're getting too good too early. We have to make decisions about, hey, when is it appropriate to bump these kids up? We don't want to move them up too fast. We really want to slow cook the process. We don't want to microwave it. But these kids, they're getting more athletic, and they're working hard. They're focused. We've got an awesome youth group right now, so very thankful for them. The actual business, the behind the scenes, I mentioned last week, been doing a lot of evaluations, bringing people on. We're really slowing that down now because we're essentially at capacity for our high school group. Going to start bringing on more adults. We got some room to bring on some more youth kids as well. But I just doing some reflecting this week. We're really grateful. We're really blessed to be able to get to work with people who want to work with us and people who are a good fit. Now, we're not a good fit for everybody. We firmly believe in kindness, and so people who are unkind in their interactions with us whenever they're going through their onboarding process, we don't have to work with you. We don't want to have people who are trying to force our hand into things that we aren't comfortable with. We don't want to work with people who aren't truly bought into getting better over the long term, who aren't committed to the process. So we're just really blessed that we have an incredibly hardworking group of athletes who work with us, an incredibly kind group of parents who we get to deal with. We just have such a strong community around us. We're just grateful, man. We really love what we do, and we couldn't be more grateful for the people that we've been blessed with being able to serve. All right, so what's going on with my kids? What's going on as a sports parent right now? I mentioned last week we're done with flag football. We're done with dance for the time being. So we are involved in soccer, gymnastics, and swim lessons for Grace, and we've got swim lessons for Evie. So Grace had an interesting endeavor this past week at soccer. So she had a kid be mean to her because she was the one who scored the first goal. I don't remember exactly what the kid said to her afterwards. She told us the story, but it was something along the lines of he was saying it wasn't nice of her. She shouldn't have done that. She shouldn't have scored that goal. Um, and we had to have a conversation. We had to teach her what jealousy was. That young boy was jealous that she scored the first goal and he didn't. Now, the problem was after that kid had that conversation, we didn't know what was said. We didn't really see that conversation happen, but we did notice that she really shut down and she wasn't as assertive in their small sided games afterwards. So we had to have a talk about how she can't let what other people say always change the way that she behaves. Because some people are going to do unkind things sometimes. There are people who do things unkind. That little boy was jealous and it affected the way that he treated her. That doesn't make that little boy a bad kid or anything along those lines, but he was jealous and his behavior impacted her in a way that it shouldn't have. We had to teach her about how playing a game involves competitiveness and competing hard and playing hard and trying hard is a good thing. It's a valuable thing. It's not an unkind thing. So we had to have a conversation about jealousy, what jealousy is, and how she can't let what other people say always affect the way that she behaves. And she has to continue to be confident in her own perspective, confident in what she did and how she handled the situation and move forward and know that competing is something that is a valuable skill set. So it was a really interesting, cool experience, and we'll see how it plays out next week at soccer. We'll see if she remains passive or she gets her assertive self back. Grace is crushing swim lessons too. She's going under the water. This past week, the most recent one, she was actually swimming by herself, meaning that she's always needed the noodle for a life vest, but she was actually keeping herself afloat. And I just can't believe it. She's crushing it. She's doing good with that. Gymnastics going well as always. Not really any new skills she's working towards right now. Just really getting her upper body stronger, doing all of her flips, doing all that stuff, keeping all of the kinesthetic stuff fresh. Evie is an interesting place right now. She's starting to listen to instructions. I mentioned at the top of the podcast, she's almost 2. She's starting to listen to instructions. Whenever we go to soccer, I'll bring a soccer ball for her and she'll watch what Grace is doing with her team and she'll start mimicking it on the side and I'll help her out. I'll do some stuff with her on the side and she's starting to listen a little bit. So we're considering starting to start her up in some more organized stuff. Maybe it's a little bit of soccer, maybe it's a little bit of gymnastics. I don't know. We're not going to do that immediately. We're going to give her a little bit more time. But we might be starting her journey here soon. She is doing swim lessons. She hates them, not her cup of tea. We're working through that, just trying to get her comfortable with the pool right now, though. Girls have been awesome, though. Rachel, Grace, Evie, they all treated me to an incredible Father's Day. I was really blessed to spend it with them and then go spend it with my dad, spend it with her dad. Got to see a lot of family, got to swim, got to play sports with the cousins, the kiddos. It was awesome. We're living the good life right now, man. I do have to, as always, remind you that everything in these newsletters, podcasts, social media, and on our website is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice for you or your athlete. Please consult directly with a healthcare professional. And until next time, go be great out there.
Yeah, straight A student, but I'm friends with the cool kids. Following the rules and the rubric. Freestyle on the bus and it's too lit. Everybody